Hello. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Calling EU, where I've got two amazing guests. I've got Alex Chitu and Daniel Correas, both amazing players in the EU scene, and they have brought along their topics today to break down and have a listen. Really, see what you think. Comment below on your opinions as well. This is kind of I haven't had much time to think about what they've had to say. But here we go. We'll just debate this through. So, Alex, lay it on me. Your topic is the average drafter really practicing? Ooh. We're coming in. Oh, lay it on me. What do you... just to give this title a bit more context.
Sure. So this is something that me and my team have kind of observed in general when we were prepping for draft and attending events that have draft and sealed in them. Mm-hmm. And we have realized that in order to actually be good at a specific draft format, you need to put in a lot of work. Yeah. It's quite a different thing to a CC, mm-hmm. where in CC maybe you have your hero that you are practicing for a long time and you're building that skill set for that hero or a few heroes, let's say. Mm-hmm. And yeah, metas come and go. They change a little bit. So you need to refigure out the meta, practice into the top X heroes and figure out your strategy against them. Mm-hmm. But many things stay the same. So you can fall back on a lot of the heuristics that you have accumulated along your
yeah. No,
career, let's say.
I agree with that, because that's a really interesting point. I think that when you actually get into a hero, and I know that there's been some interesting topics that Bartosz mentioned in the first episode about playstyles and stuff, but really heroes in CC have their good cards, and those good cards do kind of dictate what they're gonna try and do. And if you've been doing that a lot, yeah, you know, you sort of can just get used to that very quickly. I fully appreciate that. So, but with draft, it's very different, right?
That's right. And that's mostly because, yeah, sure, there are similarities in the drafting process and how different formats are similar to each other. Like there's some things that you have to look out for in a new format. But at the same time, some formats are so different from each other that at the end of the day, the number one thing that's going to help you out is practice, basically.
Okay. Okay. So that's really cool. So what is it? So I suppose really it's all about the context of the event, right? Because there's skirmish. I don't know. There's your armory drafts. I don't know if skirmishers do drafts. I think they do.
They should do sealed if they do anything.
Okay. Yeah, and then you got
used to anyway.
Yeah,
nowadays
so you got armory drafts into pro quests or RTNs if they do drafts, so that's still store level stuff, but a little bit more serious. And then there's your battle hardened. Battle hardens don't do drafts, I believe. No, they haven't. I don't think I've seen a battle hardened draft, but callings and Pro Tours and Worlds basically. So it all depends on the scale of the event. So what is this aiming at? Is this kind of calling plus?
Yeah, I would say that, and also if your RTN/PQ season mm-hmm. has draft, which many times they do.
Yeah.
It's gonna help you out even at that level, right?
Yeah, that's true.
And also, I think because the average player doesn't look too much into those things, I think it's also the avenue in which, if you are really practice, you have maybe a group with which you can discuss ideas of draft and how to get better and a particular format. What's the good things that people have noticed about it? Mm. You can get to the point where, depending on the format, you almost just can't lose, basically.
Okay. Daniel,
against the player that... Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Daniel, what's your... I've heard your point there about Alex, and I'll pass this along to you as well. You mentioned that if you get a group together, right? How how much of an advantage is that being in a group of people? Like, I can already imagine in my head, yeah, it's very advantageous, obviously, to be in a group of people that have all got the same goal. But Daniel, do you think that you could actually improve on your drafting without having a group around you?
Yeah, 100% sure.
Okay.
But I think we have to aim on the idea that we have to prepare differently if you're going to play a pro quest or you're going to play a call-in or you're going to play a pro tour.
Yeah.
Because the kind of people, the kind of opponent that you're going to play against is super different. If you play against people that know how to read the board, you have to be maybe more aggressive with your drafting and try to send the signals. If you're playing with people that doesn't know what to do with the draft, maybe at some point you have to be more adaptive and try to draft the less drafted hero in the set.
Okay.
So I think it's something that many people do is that they draft independently of the people that is surrounded.
Okay.
I mean, for example, for me, I remember when I played in the top in LA, I was like super open on my draft, and on the third pick I saw it was the heavy hitter draft, and I draft what's the name of the card? It's the 9 attack that costs 5 and has -1 with the bigger and +1 with the might. I don't remember the name of the card. It was a majestic.
Another card. Yeah.
A majestic guardian. It was like, okay,
Yeah.
guardian is super open. That's something that you can't do with people that doesn't know how to draft, because maybe the people next to you they won't read the signs that you are clearly going into guardian and you're drafting it. So if you have a testing group, you can identify the different patterns and the different structures of the deck that you want to play. And that's super important if you're playing with good people, because you have to understand the place that you are. You are in the spot of being the Runeblade, for example, or you're in the spot of being the Wizard.
Yeah.
Because you Alex, in your team, do you think that you all have different deck structures? It's like you have a way to configure your deck. If you have, for example, in this set in Rosetta, you have one structure for Aurora or a couple of structures for Aurora, for Florian, for Stelio, for Verdance.
What do you mean exactly? So, like, do you mean that different people have different ways in the team in which
I mean, for me, for example, when we draft Florian, we have like 2 ways to draft it. If we want to fatigue people, that we draft the cards that increase our health.
Oh, I know what you mean.
And then you can draft a Florian deck that do a lot of runes that want to transcend and try to do a OTK.
So when you're picking the hero, I get it. Yeah, when you're picking the hero, it's not just the one way you play it. There's more than one way to
archetypes.
play it.
Okay, yeah,
archetypes. Yeah, that's it. So do you find those archetypes as well when you're doing your testing, Alex?
Yeah, exactly. That's.
Yeah, for sure. Like, depending on the format, you have different archetypes in heroes. I'd say that has been actually like a bit of a newer thing. I can't recall for a while before Rosetta that you had actually archetypes in a draft deck for a while.
Yeah, I mean, did you not have that with Part of the Misfail? Because I felt that was there not like different archetype styles that you can sort of lean into? Now, granted, I'm not saying they're good. You know what I mean? Like sometimes, but
there was in Mistveil there was only like the water deck, I suppose. Like that was the kind of thing where you would have more like a lot of blues, and then transcend cards and stuff like that.
Sure.
But overall, other than that, there wasn't much by hero.
Okay. So
difference.
Daniel, you say that there isn't, like, it's not super important to have a team to get that draft practice over. Do you agree with that, Alex, or do you think it is important to get a group together to improve on your drafting practice?
I think you don't like need it to start with, obviously, but I think if you're talking about trying to get practice for a tier 3 or tier 4, it's quite an edge to have a group. Because I'm just thinking for my team, for example, by the time that I'm doing my first draft, probably in my team collectively, there's already been like 500 drafts.
Got it. All right.
Across every single person, if you were to sum them up. So the amount of, at least this was the case in the last format. Okay. The amount of knowledge that I'm starting with is immense.
Yeah.
So I already know what I'm looking for. And yes, I can figure some stuff out that maybe wasn't figured out already. But I have a base and I can discuss if there's something different that I'm finding in my drafting practice that my team is saying, no, actually it's the other way. Why is there that discrepancy? And we can discuss that. And through that discussion, we can figure out if basically how we can have a unified strategy.
Yeah, okay.
Basically.
Yeah, okay. But you've also noticed that there's quite a lot of there's a big discussion. What's a pro player? We'll call it top players, right? But you're noticing that there's a lot of really top players that you have noticed. We're not naming names or anything, but you're just noticing a trend that when you rock up to calling events and when you rock up to Pro Tours and Worlds, there's a distinct difference of the practice side of things. I'm curious as to why. Is there something about drafting, the process of it is, do you know what I mean? Is it fun to do? Because I think that's what also based on a lot of what people want to do. I think there's definitely a group of people that want to just do well, and they will do, and that's like going to the gym. I don't like leg day, but you got to do it. Right, because that's how you're going to actually complete this marathon without doing some of the really hard graph training parts. It sucks. I don't like doing it. But CC is arm day, right? And you're like, oh, I can do this all day. I love it. This is, or whatever, right? Do you think that's the case, or do you think there's something potentially more to it?
I think that the vast majority of the top players enjoy playing limited. Because, for example, in my case, it's like pure flesh and blood. It's like how you have to block, you have to attack, you have to use all the tools that you have to use all the tools that the game offers you.
Yeah.
So when you're playing that, you feel like you're essentially using all the mechanics in the game. Yeah. When you're playing CC, sometimes like, when you have all these super strong decks, as for example, it was Zen. Yeah, it's like, okay, you're blocking with the boots on the helmet, okay, Art of War, and I'm done. And it's like, okay, it's what it is. But when you're playing draft, maybe sometimes you or someone in your pod opens a lot of Majestics and have a super crazy deck.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, this will happen only once. And you will have to adapt to the next one because you won't have the same experience. Sure. Exactly the same one. That's what makes draft super good and super hard to train.
So what can people... So, okay, getting a group together would be really helpful. And I think, like you said, so just to sort of like piece this really interesting topic together, you can just just practice a bit of draft and just figure stuff out on your army events. And that will do you pretty all right when you go to RTNs and ProQuests, yeah? Obviously, when you're meeting up with a bunch of people that have a group, it's gonna probably be a bit of a rough day in the office. But that's a good start. But if you're gonna go to callings and Pro Tours and Worlds, you really need to get like a group of people together to just really hash that out, right? And that I think that's actually really that's a really interesting. Like thought process on it. Is there anything else, Alex, that you think the average player should really be also looking at when they're doing that drafting process?
Yeah, if you have a way to review a draft. So we did this once in paper, I think, with a couple of the toxic guys as well, where we got together and what we did is we all wrote basically, instead of having the normal draft, what we did is we all had a piece of paper. And what we did is we, before we actually made our pick, we wrote down what the pick was and what other good cards were in that pack.
Mm-hmm.
And we continue doing that for every single pick of the draft. And an additional thing that we did is if there were any notes like, oh, I'm passing this because la la, or I'm seeing this, that means this is a signal or something like that. Anything to remember what the thought process was.
Mm-hmm.
And after the draft, we basically all compare the notes and see what happened. We can look and we can discuss pick by pick what exactly was it that inspired our decisions, and if there's any discrepancy in what anyone's choices might have been, then we can discuss that, and that way together we can sort of come to a consensus on what maybe, okay, so we can say, oh, maybe this was a mistake, or I didn't think about X and Y, or maybe there's something that is against the consensus, but there was a good reason for it, and maybe that way we can figure out how that decision impacted the rest of the draft, because normally you have no way to actually see that. Sometimes when you are just playing a draft and things just happen, you're like, oh, I got unlucky, or like, oh, this person like forced, or this person sent me a signal but then cut me, and you have these ideas in your head, but you never know for sure exactly what happened because all you can see is the cards that were passed to you, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So if you have that, obviously, in order to set something like that up, it's a bit of a experiment, let's say. It's a bit of a
yeah, I know what you mean.
Accounting
the thing is,
mess, you know.
The thing is, I always find that pretty like. What do you, before I get down this question, do you go down this sort of process, Daniel? Do you have like 8 people to sort of bounce off, or are you just how do you sort of work around that? Because Alex, your team is sounds very organized, very deliberate, very, you know what I mean? This seems like a very dedicated, focused like session. Daniel?
Yeah, we are the Sunflower Summers. We have a lot of organization. We know exactly what to do. So our process to practice drafts, and no joke in this, we enter the runaways. We share the screen on Discord and we discuss about the picks. But people is just talking about other things. They are playing video games or doing other stuff. No joking. Okay. We do that 100%.
Okay.
But the discussion, I mean, the discussion transcends, and we keep talking about the lines during the games or about the drafting. So we do a lot of drafts, but we are like a big mind, you know?
Right.
We all do the same draft, but we are sharing the draft with 7 people that we don't know.
So it's one person, seven heads.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
on the note of the runaways thing, like what you can do on runaways. I didn't talk about it because I didn't know if you want to discuss runaways, but anyway.
No. I mean, I was going to bring up saying what I was actually going to leave this final point of what do you think is more beneficial, doing something on an online client or paper based, but just people do it. I'm not even going to sugarcoat say it doesn't happen. We all know it happens. So let's just go. It does exist. So, but sorry,
it's the same for us. I mean, like everything happens on runaways, right?
Of course it does. It's
we're an international team, so
it's you're an international. It is free. But yeah, so what was your point, Alex, about the runaways? You were saying that what does this client do to help?
So my point with the tool is that actually what you can do is you can go in the history of a draft, and you can see not only just your picks, pick by pick, but everyone in the draft picks pick by pick. So what we do sometimes after playing a draft, we dissect what I just said for everyone in the draft, and it doesn't have to be that you play with all your teammates. Basically, you just, as Daniel said, basically you have one person, the rest just look or discuss. And then when you are reviewing the drafting process, because there's a log, what you can do is you can look pick by pick what has transpired in the draft and how did people make decisions based on the information that they had around you.
Yeah.
And how did that influence the draft? Because you can see it happening in real time. And once you look at that happening like 10, 20, 30 times, you start seeing some patterns, right?
Right.
And
But
that
you need numbers. You need that
it's just
drafts
data.
happen.
Yeah.
You need that. You need that all the drafts happen and see what. Look at this. What happened in one draft? I play against one guy who drafted a majestic, and then you can. For me, we have then we do a rating of the cards that we consider that bombs in the draft, and then we say, okay, this is the build around cards, or not are the build around cards, and or these are the combination of the cards that we want to find, and that's all.
It seems that you guys have got you got two different approaches, and and I imagine if you're listening to this, if you are in a team or from wherever, you probably all just got your way of doing things as well. And I'm going to end this because we could go on and on and on. We've got to get two more topics on this, but very interesting. Comment below as well anything that you want to chuck in on regarding draft. But I will just finally end this point just very quickly. What's better, playing on the Runaways or the online client, or playing draft in real life? What do you think is, for you personally, more beneficial to improve? Daniel.
At the very beginning, I think the online drafts allows you to do everything faster.
Yeah.
So those first steps to understand the draft, I think doing it online is fine. I think it's faster. Then the last part of the training, I think doing it on boards with people that know what is doing is the way to to increase that peak to the limit and say, okay, now I understand exactly what I have to do in the draft.
Okay.
Because you have some sensations and some things that if you're playing online, you don't feel. I mean, you don't have to. You are not allowed to look around you when you're playing a T3 or T4 event.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to do that because you can see information that shouldn't be allowed to give you. But you can feel the room,
Yeah.
You can feel when someone is super stressed, or when just with how they put the cards on the board or things like that, and it's like, okay, this guy is forcing, and it's just because he put the cards super angry on the board. It's like, okay. Those kind of things you can train it online.
I've got a little. I do want to move on to the next bit, but I have got a fun story between me and you, Daniel. But Alex, to you, this question about online or paper.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's in terms of building strategy, building heuristics, building just understanding of the format. Obviously, online is going to be the best because it allows you volume, and it allows you basically to.
It's a lot cheaper.
Yeah, to get a lot of the hive mind basically working.
Yeah.
But obviously, on a personal level, there are some things that you get online that you don't get in real life. Biggest one for me actually is, you can't see your picks while you're picking, except between the packs, right?
Yeah.
Whereas online you get to see them all the time.
Well, you can do settings, I'm sure, to hide it.
Yeah, you can. Most people don't do it.
No, that's
we don't do it.
Yeah.
So, obviously, when you're sat down and you're actually trying to do stuff. Oh, and also the time element.
Yeah.
There's that as well, because at tier 3s and 4s you have cold drafts. So obviously you're gonna have to build that as well. Obviously, this is not different format by format, but you're still gonna need a bit of practice there just to have it in the back of your mind.
Yeah.
So that's basically it.
Cool. Well, to your point, Daniel, I do believe that doing the draft in a physical space is so much better because it is all about that table, that space that you are in, right? Story time, just a little bit before we move over to Daniel's question. Me and you were on the same table, weren't we, Daniel? The very first time we ever met in San Jose.
In San Jose, yeah.
And you were stressing. So and I was sitting there thinking, oh, this guy, this guy is having a bit of a day on the draft table, and you're like, oh, and didn't you also hurt your hand as well? I was like, this guy's having a day.
I remember I drafted Icelander in that moment. I drafted Icelander because I thought that it was open.
Yeah.
And the guy on my left was playing Icelander, and the guy on my right was playing Icelander, and I was like, what am I doing? I fucked up my entire World Championship doing this. Why am I drafting Icelander?
We played a game, and I was playing, and I picked up, I just forced Farty, because, that was the correct move, and that's what Jamie Fulton had told me to do in Utrecht, and it got me into a top 8 of a battle hard. I was like, well, this works. I'll do it again. And I played into you, and you were sitting there proper, oh, God. I think I've just thrown this. And I went, don't worry, dude, you got this. I think, don't count this out. I suck at this game, right? And you won, and you were like, oh, God, I can't believe I pulled us out. And I was like, I didn't give you it. I tried. You're a good player. You did it. You 2-1 this draft, and you said I have no business to do 2-1 this draft. But it's that real life experience of drafting around.
I remember that game because it was a mark, for me in my heart, because it was like, this guy is giving me hopes to win the game, and I have 5 good cards in my deck, and I drew all of them.
Yeah, you
at the beginning, and I could use them.
Yeah, you did. You did get me, and I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. If you have this card, I was like, of course you do. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, I have 13 cards in my deck, and I only have yellows and blues that do nothing.
I was hoping to build you up so I can crush your dreams. No, it didn't work. Anyway, we're moving on. So, Daniel, your topic. What can you do to increase the local player base in your scene? So, Daniel, you've got break this down into more context.
Yeah, for me, for people that doesn't know me, I've been playing card games for 20 years. So right. I'm a super fan of this world of TCGs. So I have, as I don't live in a big city, I live in a small city called Zaragoza, in the middle between Madrid and Barcelona.
Yeah.
And we don't have the access of a lot of stores that support card games in general. We have big shops, but are super Magic focused and not in other card games in general. So at the end, what we have to do is we have to increase the player base and try to encourage people to try the game, to give it a try. And this is something that I feel super proud in Flesh and Blood, because I didn't want to get involved into the game that much, my local community, because I've been doing that for a lot of years. Mm-hmm. But now I feel like I want to do it again, because in my player base we were 5 or 6 people playing on my city, and now we are 14.
Right, that's huge. That's
huge.
Awesome. Yeah, that's awesome.
That has been a super big increase, and it's a combination of a good local store that are doing the things that they have to do, a combination of the community that we're doing a big effort to be super welcome to people, and also we have to give a big shout out to LSS, because they did this amazing armory decks that are helping us a lot to allow people to try the CC. That is basically the most played mode in the game. So
yeah,
for me, it's this is how I feel, and this is what I want to share, and maybe this can help people to increase their small communities on their cities.
Yeah, I've got a lot to say about that, but weirdly, it's not in the context of increasing Flesh and Blood. But Alex, do you head over to Armory Nights, what is there anything that you're doing? Or I mean, if to be fair, you can, if you say not really, I just like showing up and playing games, that's also fine, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's interesting because I've experienced like different stores and different amounts of players as since when I've started playing the game. Obviously, when I started with Fab, it was because of my local game store holding a Fab event, right?
Right.
So that's what got me into the game. If that didn't happen, I wouldn't have gotten into the game, right?
Yeah.
And it was a store that didn't actually do Fab normally. It was just a one-off thing.
Oh, okay.
And it just so happened that because it was an event that gave a promo, a bunch of people traveled from another town at the time, and that's how I got to know them. And then I went to that other town to play, right?
Yeah, that's cool.
And then I would play there weekly, and that's sort of how I got into the game, right?
Do you mind asking what that is? Because when you eventually become a world champion, right? I'm sure LSS will love to know, where did it begin?
Yeah. So I was living in Crawley at the time.
Crawley, yeah.
So that's near Gatwick for the UK people.
London for the rest of the world.
Yeah. But it's for the rest of the world. It's basically quite far from London, so you can't really go to London from there unless you're like making it.
Bro, from where I live, I just say I don't live in London. I just go, whereabouts is it? It's near Gatwick. It's London. That'll do.
Right, and then some people from Brighton traveled there. And those guys were really nice, and that's basically what got me into the game, right? So I started going to the Brighton game store, which was, I remember at the time there were about 12 or so people at that armory there showing up regularly. At some point I moved to London, and I've seen like a different aspect of it. So in London there was when I moved about like 3 or so. 3-4 armory places.
There was rules. Was it Rule Zero, Dark Sphere, and somewhere else? I can't remember.
Rule Zero, Dark Sphere. Those are the two that I would usually go to. There was a couple more that just shut down or something. But basically, what I noticed is like some. Oh, and there was another one in Burgess Hill when I lived in Crawley. So where I was going with that talk is that basically I've seen different levels of how much stores support the game, different levels of how much players like evangelize to each other and try to like get people pumped up, like giving people decks or stuff like that to play, or like bringing their friends with, stuff like that. And it definitely has a big impact, right? How people get into the game.
Yeah, 100%.
The meme of have you do you have a moment to talk about Flesh and Blood?
Yeah.
It's literally that moment.
Yeah.
So I've got to take now. I haven't built up a Flesh and Blood scene because I think every area's got its own unique position, right? They've all got their own community, their own story, their own trends. Everything's very different. And if you think a game is dead because your area isn't playing it, trust me, the game isn't dead somewhere, right? Every game on the planet there's a group of people playing a lot of it somewhere, and to them that is an active scene. I've said this, if you probably heard our podcast before, I've been running a gaming club for the last 15 years, right? So there has been a lot of games coming and going, from tabletop games to everything. And the biggest thing for me about how to grow a local player base is don't stress about growing it. It's so weird. Don't stress about how many people you've got. I've always said the magic number for me is about 3 or 4, right? If you've got 3 or 4 dudes that you love hanging out with, and you meet up and you just play a game and you guys are having such a blast, and you're in a space with other people also playing games, it does get quite infectious pretty quickly. If you're seeing people having fun, you can't help but, like you saw, Alex, you've walked in, people are having fun at this moment. What's this cool game, right? And if people don't want to come and play, they're fine. That's fine. You know, they've got some people are busy, they've got a life, they've got time to do that one thing they just wanted to do, and they're going to go off and do it. But every now and then, the game that they're playing, I mean, you know, we don't play Halo on the Xbox anymore, do we? Right? But when we did, we thought, well, the best game ever, right? You know, we'll play Gears of War. Oh, I'll play this forever. But you don't. Everything eventually has a shelf life, and you just get a little bit bored, maybe. And if you're still rocking up, playing with your mates, having a blast playing this game, not stressing about building the scene and why is there like 16 Magic players and 20 Yu-Gi-Oh players, there's only 4 of us. Don't worry about it. Just have fun, right? And then 4 will turn into 6. And then 6 will start creeping up into 8. And then next thing you know, you're drafted. You're doing more things. And I think once you've just garnered that, and you just support all these new people to come in, hey, I love this game. Let's have a look. Yeah, sick. Come down. We'll show you how to play. It is also, we're humans, so some of us are very bad at explaining how to play games, and some of us are very good about explaining how to play games. You've got some very enthusiastic, larger-than-life characters. Probably that in our club, that would be me. I'll be that guy who goes, hey, welcome, da-da-da-da-da. You know, am I the most technically skilled player? No, I just... You know, just be you. But the second you've got someone that has got a little bit, who's quite infectious, very enthusiastic, he should be that guy that should be pushing to get someone to come and play. Because if he's just having fun, and you know what I mean, it's not a solid way of doing it, but you just find your way. But you just got to don't stress about growing it. That is my biggest trick. And I've done that with 6 or 7 games. And I'm about to do it with unfortunately, not Flesh and Blood. And the reason I haven't grown Flesh and Blood is because I've got a local store that runs Flesh and Blood on a Tuesday night next to my club. So I can't go, and I am not going to start. I don't want to pinch, you know what I mean? I just tell everyone, if you want to play card games, you go there. It's awesome. I wish I could grow it, because I'd be pumping it up like the max, but you know, it is what it is. That is just the way it is. But there's going to be a new game, a tabletop game coming out, Trench Crusade. And the second I said, oh, this looks sick, and I just went and said, oh, just started show my absolute like enthusiasm. Someone said, oh, what are you so chirpy about? I was like, have you seen this? And they're like, oh, that looks pretty sick. And now the game is not even out. I've got 10 people jumping on straight away to play, and that 10 will drop. But the second we got 6 people and we're keeping on playing, eyeballs are watching, and it grows. Anyway, that's my... I really love that question, because I was sitting there ready to burst with that. Because that's what I've been doing for 15 years, and I've still got a club.
But it's absolutely what happens with these games, because at the end, we don't have to lack the focus that this is a game. And this is a social game. This is a social game. You are meeting with people, and you want to have fun.
Yeah.
And you don't have to crush everyone in your local armory.
No, I mean...
Maybe...
Yeah, 100%. That's how we met. That's why we're here. We're just over a game. That's just really fun. It's really simple, everyone. Have fun. It's
super simple. And I am not the target of these ideas, because in general, when I want to do a thing, I want to do it as well as I can. So I don't care about traveling to LA to play a tournament, or to San Jose, or to Japan, to Osaka to play a tournament, because I want to do my best and I want to compete. And in that idea, I don't need a local store to play. But on the other hand, I want to have fun with the game and I'm not competing.
Yeah.
And I want to have people to play.
Yeah, no, 100%.
So I don't care about going to my local store and play with someone that doesn't have all the cards, because I can give him the cards, and I can allow him, LSS, to put a piece of paper and say, this is the CNC. You don't want to buy it?
Real, though.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, but it's real, though. That's what people... LSS won't care, I'm sure, because it's just... There is a different mode. You guys are playing to go to tier 4 in calling events across the world. We've got a world tour. You know what I mean? There's playing League of Legends, and then there's going to a League of Legends tournament. You know, that is very different sort of ways of thinking. So for the average person, just jam it, man. Just play some games. And if you don't want to play Flesh and Blood that week, cool. I think it's awesome. Don't play it. Go play something else, because other game you're going to play is also very good. And then you'll come back and play Flesh and Blood and go, oh yeah, this game is sick as well. How lucky are we? We've got loads of really good games to play. And then you're just enjoying it. There you go.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Last topic. Which class... So this has come from... Let me just pull this up. From Raven Cheeky. Thank you very much for the comment, Raven. This is a question around which class/talent combo do you hope gets a new hero next? Right. So in short, Vincent is the chain replacement. I don't want to say replacement, but you know, it's the new chain. Jarl is the new Oldhim. I don't know if there is another one that is.
Yeah, we have. No, we don't have any other replacement.
No, we kind of have a Prism that's also Prism, and don't know what Starvo is. It's just
we don't talk about Starvo.
We don't talk about Starvo. But I guess really, I don't know. There's sort of two ways you can sort of throw at this. I think the easiest one is like, who would you like to see come back as, like, you got Dash and Dash.io and Starvo and all that sort of stuff. I think seeing a class talent that is shared with a completely different hero in terms of like the flavor of it, I think that's what I'm going to angle this at. So if you had to see a new hero, what class talent combo would you like to see? That is just like, okay, do you know, like maybe a Dromai, for example, right? Not Dromai, but it's a Draconic Illusionist, but it's not Dromai. What class talent would you be most excited to sort of see?
For me, I would like to see Lexi back into the game.
No, but it can't be Lexi.
Lexi, I mean, not Lexi. Okay,
so you've got, it has to be
ice
a lightning
or
ice.
lightning.
Yeah.
Only ice or only lightning ranger.
And only ice or only lightning ranger. That's okay. Cool. Not ice.
Because yeah. No, I want ice back in the game. I like slow games and grindy games. I like it a lot.
Okay.
But for me, I believe that Lexi, the implementation of ice into the Lexi kit wasn't correct, because a part of the Winter's Bite, I couldn't see any other reason to play ice in general for Lexi. So I would like to see something more focused on the basics of dominate and disruption with arrows.
Right, okay. I don't want to see a lightning ranger. It just, I don't really, to be honest, I don't actually like lightning that much. I think lightning is I have to. Well, okay. Rosetta actually did something that was actually way more interesting than Tales of Aria. Right. That Tales of Aria's lightning was just like, cool. This thematically bores me to tears. But at least the Rosetta one just threw in some cool little extras, like electromagnetic somersault, which is like, oh, okay, that's pretty sick, and playing around some instant stuff. But let me guess. 0 for 4, we go again. Oh, Alex.
No, I feel like lightning has a better identity now.
Hey, look, I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just saying you're wrong. Now, Alex, what combo would you like to see?
Well, so this is a bit of a weirder one, because technically this talent doesn't even exist yet.
Oh.
I mean, we know it's coming.
Yeah.
In Chaos, right? And we don't know how Chaos works yet.
No.
But we know it's going to be chaotic, right?
Yeah. That is. I will say, I don't want to do any prediction stuff, because by the time this comes out, we're going to probably know what Chaos does.
Right.
So
Right.
Okay.
we'll do something.
But
do
I'm not
something new.
predicting. It's just what I want.
You want a Chaos. So you want a Chaos assassin. Well, you're going to get a Chaos assassin. Depending on what the Chaos is, you know. Again, what would you like to see? A different class or talent from that side, or
Yes, Chaos Runeblade.
yeah!
Of course.
Hey,
Of course.
I'm jealous now. I want to swap. I want a chaos route.
A Chaos Brute. Oh my
Yeah, why not?
days. Every
Maybe you can have a Chaos every class, right?
Chaos
Yeah.
a Chaos Brute. Oh, that would just be. Wouldn't that just basically be the original KI?
Yes.
Yeah, maybe.
That is just. Oh, I'm going to attack. Okay, 12.
Roll a die. Every single die has a different effect.
You can put your opponent or punch yourself. That's pure chaos on the battle.
That would be cool. I think, you know what, I'd actually like to see the Ice Wizard come back. I would like to see a reiteration of Icelander, because I actually really, really, really liked Icelander. I think it's obviously pushed, but the thing that I thought that was super pushed was the fact that whenever you play an ice card from out of turn, it gives the frostbite, right? Which I know is a little bit low key, but I really, really loved the blue card in Arsenal becomes an instant card, and when you did energy pots, even though you knew there was it's just that really sweet value you can get out of things. I thought that was just that part was really awesome. But then obviously when you started throwing in some blue ice stuff, it started ramping up into kind of some like channel 8 frigid on your turn is a bit like okay, this is a bit gross in terms of the amount of value you're getting out of that. But I would love to see another crack at it, because I thought it was actually I loved it. I thought that was really, really cool. Even though I don't want to really see ice. I don't know if I want to see ice come back. But Jarl's here. What I'll end it on this point, I guess, with Jarl. What's your thoughts with Jarl coming out, Daniel? You can tell me if it's cool. He is cool. Right? It's the Mangle Dude. That's so cool. But because you guys are pro players. What's your thoughts on his coming into the game?
Yeah, I think it's super positive for the game, but not now. Maybe at this point when we have super strong decks working around the meta with obviously the Parthemis build heroes, they have strong mechanics to deal with Jarl. So maybe he won't bright at this point. But as soon as they get out of the game because of the Living Legend system, I think Jarl will be super cool in the game, because he also has a lot of pool in the deck, a lot of pool of cards with all these new Earth cards out, and maybe in the future we will see a nice expansion that completely supports this hero. So
well, we have had a nice expansion in Uprising. You know, there was all this stuff.
Technically, but
yeah.
No, but the hero will be super good in the future. Maybe as soon as Enigma. Maybe Enigma is the only one that absolutely crushed him.
I agree with that.
Maybe against Nu you can do something at least.
Yeah. What about you, Alex? Jarl.
Yeah, I think Jarl is quite strong. Even now, obviously it has like big weaknesses. It has matchups where it just needs to sacrifice now, depending on the build. Okay, some heroes it doesn't depend on the build, but still, it can do some stuff that Oldhim used to be able to do, and now with the new cards, some things even better.
Yeah, am I wrong in thinking he's a bit of an aggressive Oldhim? Like, I know he's not Oldhim because Crown of Seas for one doesn't exist, so that is that you think of Winter's Whale, you think Crown of Seeds, that is Oldhim in a nutshell. I know you get to do some cool fun stuff with his hero reaction, but you know, those two cards are a bit pillar. Do you think he's a bit of an aggressive version of that class talent type?
He can be an aggressive version of Oldhim. Can be like but defensive version of Ultim. Honestly, I've seen it built every which way because my teammate Jason here likes Guardian, so he's tried every single version of Jarl
But
possible,
no, I
and I've had
suppose
to play
really,
against it.
it was such a like you said, Daniel, was such a card pool at his disposal. You know, that's I think that's his hero ability isn't the biggest, strongest bit. It's just he's an Ice Earth hero, and you're like, oh god, look at this card pool. Right, there's a lot you can go on here. I think his hero ability's fine. I actually think it's a very kind of really fair and very thematic way to do the ice thing, which is rather than just give you frostbites for free, they now have to sit in a zone when it's called your equipment, and you got this dude that goes, I'm about to smash that up, like, for good, and you're like, oh no. Do you know what I mean? I like that sort of progress that he sort of delivers straight off the bat. So yeah, really cool.
I like watching something different on Guardian. Instead of big attack, let's go. Big on hit, let's go. Now we have tricks. Now we have ways to deal with equipment. This is a -1 here. Without interaction, because I don't need to attack. I cannot trigger this specific equipment that triggers when you block. I mean, it's something different.
Yeah.
It brings fresh air to the Guardian class.
Yeah, no, awesome. Right, that's it. That's episode 3 done. Thank you so much, Alex and Daniel. So if you haven't checked them out, Alex is from Team Sigil from the UK. So if you haven't checked them out, go follow them below. And Daniel Correas, I think you're from the Sunflower Samurais or something. I don't know. You guys, I heard you guys are pretty new into the scene, but doing very well. No, go if you haven't checked them out, go check them out. Both Samurais with Daniel Correas and Alex Chitu with the Team Sigil. Both of you guys crushing it in the European scene. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you everyone for listening. If you've got any questions, put them below for the next episode, and we'll go from there. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.